You guys get quiet quick. I would not expect that in a room full of pastors. That lights went down and you guys are just ready to go. Okay, so Byron made this promise. It was with my blessing. We have books for everybody in here. I didn't know I was doing a breakout session 3 times, which means I have enough books for you guys, who are the first ones here. We'll see by breakout session number 3 if we still have enough books, but that's what this box is. So please come by at the end and grab a book out of the box. After that, I think we've been trying to give it away essentially just as a starter guide for really all the different kind of digital tools that you use as a church. We're going to get into that a little bit in a minute. My name is on there. I helped organize content. And we'll leave it at that. My goal in this session is to be useful to you all. I didn't start in digital marketing. I didn't start with I'm a millennial, so some of those things I'm growing up with. I was a church planner in New York City, and my threshold, whenever my rent was $42.50 a month just to live in New York City, that means that the budget for a church is like, hey, if it's free, it's me. If I can do it myself, I'm going to do the best that I can to do it. So you start learning all these things as a church planner, right? Then, story for another day, life kind of falls apart. And I find myself working with a church planner that owns a digital marketing business. Fast forward, and now this company is based out of the North Shore here in Louisiana. And I am double dipping, doing the bivocational thing, and so working with Grace-led communications, but also, and this is actually information that I probably should just skip to the next slide. Who am I? All the things that I just talked about. And now I'm also planting again in my hometown. So we have a church plant, Restoration Community Church. We're launching in 3 weeks. So busy time. Moving this week. It's a super busy time. Have an 11-week-old, super tired time. But it's sweet. God is good. It's been a sweet season. So slides are coming from back there. Same slides with a couple of notes are here. And so I'm navigating a couple of different things. But here's what I want to do. There's a lot of different topics we can touch on when it comes to digital tools for pastoring, for churches, for nonprofit work. It's a reality of our lives, right? But when we talk digital tools for ministry, what we're not saying is that this is in place of ministry. Okay, so the goal behind it, if I can walk over here for a second, so look at that, no feedback. The idea behind this title, Meet Them Where They Are, is about a connection. It's about a relationship. It's about using things like social media, like the internet, like Google, to be able to find connecting points for where people are already spending a bulk of their time so you can minister to them in person, so you can connect with them, so that way you can share the love of Jesus tangibly with them. And so this, like anything else, is a tool. Paul has the Romans Road, we have Google. And so how can we utilize that for the sake of the Great Commission? And so really what I want to do, I keep pointing there, man. I'm going to remember that I got to point toward your sensor up there. What I want to do over these next few minutes is cover, one, maybe how should we think about digital as a church? Because most guys, especially like bivocational staff of one church, Sunday is starting. So not Sunday's coming, but Sunday's starting in a few weeks for me, and then Sunday is just going to keep coming. And you might be in that place where it's like, hey, thinking of this stuff, if you're affordable, yeah, sure, I'll pay you to do it, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around it. Well, I want us to think about, you have a limited amount of time. And so you, as the pastor or staff member of a church, need to invest your time where you're going to make the most difference. So I do want to make a case that there is a difference to be made with engaging missionally through some of these digital tools. Thinking about your website as a staff member and not just as a bulletin board. Like, how can we think through some of these things? So I want to lay some groundwork for that, and then we'll go through some of these tools. Website, social media, email, SMS, which is text messaging, follow-up, and what that looks like, as you kind of close the back door when somebody visits within your church. And then some of the more outreach things that you can do digitally, so social media ads, we'll talk about the Google for Nonprofits grant, search engine optimization. If all that sounds too technical for you, that's okay, there's a slide on it. But I'm gonna breeze through some of these things at 1,000-foot level, because what I think is probably gonna be the most useful part of our time is that last bullet point. Q&A. Not to say that I have many of the A's, but let's ask the questions together. If you guys want to spend most of our time, the back half of the time we have together, talking about how does my church show up on Google? What can we do to show up on Google, and how much is that going to cost our church, and how much time is it going to, what can we do today to do that? Or I've seen churches use their sermons in reels on social media, and I don't know how to do that. Like if we want to talk about social media, let's talk about that. If we want to talk about SEO, let's talk about that. If we want to talk about, is email still worthwhile for your church? I want the end of our time to be led by you guys and kind of what direction you want to take us down. So be thinking about that, preparing for that, whatever it is that we want to cover today. And to that end, you also don't have to, maybe I will point up there. No. You don't have to wait to ask a question. You can also just raise your hand now. We'll ask a question. All right, next slide. Thank you. Oh, those GIFs may or may not work, but I didn't have enough space to fill a whole page, and so Princess Bride doesn't look as cool if they're not moving. It was moving at one point, though. All right, let's talk website first. Well, those are going to be more awkward now if they're not moving. What does it mean to have a missional church website? We're in the process of, we're launching one of our church websites this week for a church here in the area that the conversations with their staff was about getting their existing church website down from 130 pages to under 30 pages. And man, meeting with some of those ministry departments, it's like, but all that content matters, right? That's all about our church. But what's the goal of our website? What are we trying to accomplish with it? It's not like our own internal Wikipedia. We're wanting to move people to action. We're wanting to move people to connection. A website forms a first impression. 80% of people or more visit a church's website before they ever step foot in your doors on a Sunday morning. That is telling the story of your church before you get a chance to live in person. This is bonus information, but also something to consider if you guys are live streaming and your live streaming is challenging right now. Your live stream, especially for a small budget church, might not be able to adequately tell the story of what it's like to gather with this body of believers, and that also might be hurting your first impression. I know that was important for COVID, but what is it that we can do to communicate, hey, this is what it's like to experience life with this local church? Because that's what we want them to do. And so, really, your website is built around 3 primary audiences. And it's the same way we think of every Sunday morning. Also, spoiler alert on this, if a pastor is doing digital marketing, he thinks kind of like about it the same way he does with his sermon about how to handle digital tools. Same way you preach a sermon. You might have somebody every time you go to a Sunday, every time that you see people sitting in your pews, sitting in your chairs, you have the person that's the first-time guest, the person that's the kind of the second-time guest, and then you have your regular attenders, your regular members. All 3 of those categories are visiting your church website. You have people that are considering, maybe they're new to town or they're exploring faith and they're checking out your church for the first time, potential first-time guest. They're looking to take a certain action and learn certain information on your website, right? Second-time guest, they've visited once. Now they're looking to take that next step. How do I actually get involved? I know they said it during announcements, but I mean, who listens to that? So how do I actually get involved? I was talking with a pastor this morning about morning announcements. It's like the most awkward thing you do as a pastor. And then you have your regular attenders. They're coming because they're ready to sign up for the next event. We know registrations are there. They missed a week. They're going to your sermon page on your website. All 3 of those audiences are coming to your website with a different motivation. All 3 of them also probably speak a different language, right? Your church members might be familiar when you talk about connect groups, but your person that just moved to the area or hasn't gone to church since they were Catholic as a kid is like, what in the world is a connect group? Or I'm supposed to send my kid to Awana. What is that? You know, so there's some of these things we get our own Christianese language that doesn't mean we don't use those words, but we probably should define them and use them in different places, maybe. And we'll get into that in a second with an example. So really what we're trying to do with the website is providing a window into the life of your church. I'm going to show 3 examples of church websites, kind of helping picture what I mean by that, because the whole point of your church website is not keeping people there for hours on end. You're not thinking about it as the pastor of the church. You might hear that somebody visited your church website, but the goal is you're wanting to connect with them personally, even if they reach out to you with an email or text or anything else before, you're wanting to serve them and not just be about your website. So, what does that actually look like? Let's give some examples. Let's go back. All right. So, this is a church in Texas. This is awkward too, because they turned down our bid to redo their website. Now I'm using them as an example. But if we look at the homepage of their website, a few things that stand out here. First off, let's look at that picture that's in the background. And we're being critical, but I want to be critical with a missional lens, okay? Because from this standpoint, you can see that there probably are people that are in attendance that aren't on stage, but it doesn't show you it doesn't give somebody a taste of what it would look like to be at the church. Video's great if you can do video well, but also anybody can take an iPhone photo, or if you don't have an iPhone, Android does okay. Take an Android photo. Like anybody can take a photo from their smartphone that's pretty decent quality these days that shows not just people worshiping, but somebody shaking hands. Actually, corporations, they did studies on this. Businesses, for-profit businesses that have a negative perception, they ran focus groups. Simply by changing their website and putting photos of people that smiled on their website, they had more than a 50% increase in reputation and positive perception. Hopefully you have some people smile at your church. Take photos of them. Smile yourself, but show people what it's like to actually be there on a Sunday. Secondly, I have a drop down here for outreach. And outreach is good. We want to do missions. We want to be out serving the community. We want to have events. It looks like they have a lot of events. But some of these, I don't know what they mean. Say Yes summer program, summer robotic program, food pantry makes sense, the collaborative fellowship, the Transformation Outreach Center, humble area blessings in a backpack. I get it. At churches, we brand everything, right? We're not like Apple that we can just be so simple enough to say iPhone, iWatch, whatever. We want to have, our kids ministry has a brand name with its own logo, and our college ministry has a brand name with its own logo. That's fine. But it might actually inhibit people whenever they're looking through your website to find the information that they need. And so let's say you run Awanas at your church. Maybe in the ministries drop down of your website, you say kids ministry. And then when they get to that page, you tell them about the different environments that you offer as a kids ministry. And you can use the names there. But it helps, in for-profit world, it's called the customer journey, right? They visit your homepage and they need to be able to take an action. Here, the action, if you were to scroll down a little bit, I think is give and live stream. And so those are two challenging things that don't necessarily hit everybody in the same place when they first visit the homepage of our website. We want to use the language that makes sense in our context. Next slide. And I mentioned this in jest before, but now I could be explicit about it. This is the new website for First Baptist Church Covington that Lord willing is launching this week. And they do a lot, right? It's a big church here on the North Shore. They have a lot of different ministries, and part of all those ministries have their own names. But like many of your churches might, they categorize things into next steps, like find your next step at church. But what does the next step mean? For a non-Christian or somebody that's coming out of a Catholic background and trying church again for the first time, and they say, okay, connect, grow, serve, go. What do those things talk about? And so for this specific church, what they chose to do, we led them to incorporate descriptions in their navigation. That can, even though it's still a drop-down, but it's not just a list. Hey, you want to use the word connect, great, but let's define it for the people that don't know what it is. Connect a community in a connect group. A little bit of a description that actually helps people know what it is they're clicking on. Because we've all clicked on things that, an ad on social media or something else we're afraid to because we don't know where it's going to lead. We don't know, if this is the thing that I want, and people get distracted so easily. And so we can define our win. They're using a video of their church because they have new people that are there every time, and they have a large live streaming ministry. You see those are the two actions that are on the buttons at the bottom of their homepage when you first visit. All right, next thing. A little bit self-serving. This is the website for my church. Now, the photos are in black and white because I don't have the money to hire a professional photographer. And so the photos were not the best in the world, but now look, they all look like they fit together because they're just black and white. Like you can do things well on a budget. Now for us, we're a church plant. Maybe this fits to you if you know your context. And you already know your context because you preach thinking about your context every single week. You're trying to answer questions that people in your community are asking. Your website should do the same thing. We're planting in Old Mandeville. There's a lot of spiritual apathy. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of people that have come out of Catholicism, but now they're just the religious nuns. And so we don't have an I'm new page on our website. Also, we're a church plant. Everybody's new. We don't need a page for that. For us, we have a skeptics welcome page on our website. We want to speak to the person that's not currently going to any church, saying, hey, this is a safe space where it's okay to not have everything figured out, to have questions, to have doubts, come be a part of a community where you can explore that together. And so that's something we've organized ourselves as a website. All right. Like I said, I want to keep moving because we have a lot of different things for digital, but if we want to come back to websites at the end with specific questions or something like that, we certainly can. Okay, social media. So there's a lot of things you could talk about social media. 2021, 72% of Americans were on some kind of social media. That number has increased to 424 million people, or it's increased by 10% just in the last year. And it continues to grow. Of course, also social media channels continue to grow. If we were to guess, the average person spends 2.5 hours on social media, not just on their phone, but on social media every single day. We can't get them to spend that much time at church on a weekend, and yet they're on their phones, on social media that often, every single day. Not only that, I don't know if you're like me, the metric for social media is changing. Used to, whenever, even just 5 years ago, you'd be excited if you woke up and a post for your church had, 20 likes and had a couple of comments. Now you're kind of afraid of comments as a church because they usually mean somebody's coming at you. But what people do like to do is they share the post. On Instagram, sharing it in a DM, that's half of what my wife and I do at night, is we sit next to each other and we send each other DMs of funny things that we've seen. Or, we have an 11-week-old, so things that she wants to buy for a baby. Like, we just send them back and forth to each other. People are doing that all the time. That's low-hanging fruit. Actually, for some people, that's the first kind of evangelism they might ever do. And we should think about that when we make social media content, because too often our churches just default to social media being a bulletin board, a place where we promote ministry, but not a place where we actually do any kind of ministry. So this is different for every church, but here's a quick recommendation for what that might look like. A basic strategy, engaging your community, and really just 3 posts a week. 3 categories every single week. You could just run this, set it and forget it, so you think of 12 posts a month, you're set to go for the month. And those 3 posts are thinking about the categories of people that also visit your church website. You have potential first-time guests. How is your social media content giving them a preview of your church? Not just inviting them to it, because people feel like they're asked to do something all the time. But how can you just preview, this is who we are. This is what it's like to be a part of our church. This is what's going on. But then your regular attenders, your members, and really, I want to hit this point more, disciple your church with social media. Now, what do I mean by that? I have a guy, we have our first baptism just planned also on our launch Sunday. And he, early on when I met him, he grew up Catholic. Now he opened his Bible for the first time like a couple years ago, and he's just been eating it up. And he said, but really the thing that's been his favorite, where he's grown the most, is what he calls church TikTok. Because as soon as you swipe a few times away from the ridiculous things that the algorithm wants to feed you in TikTok, it started realizing really quickly, okay, he wants spiritual posts and religious posts. And he also is a baby Christian that has no idea and no discernment from teacher A to teacher B to teacher C, right? And yet, if you're not discipling your people with content about how to apply the gospel in everyday life on social media, someone else is. And so when you think about the content that you're giving, it can't just be come to this event. And honestly, corporations pay millions of dollars every year to try to have enough video content that's around their core mission and vision that they can communicate who they are to the world around them. And for many of us, since COVID, we have 35 minutes of content on video every single week. You have a sermon every single week that is communicating who you are, who you want to be, how you want to see people grow. Use it. I mean, I hope, this would be the point where pastors should be excited. Like, you spent too much time on your sermon every week to let it just end whenever you transition to your time of invitation, or you transition to your song of response or communion or whatever it is. Like, use that content for a blog, use that content for a sermon reel, use that content for a post that's just a quote from the message. Continue to communicate with your people, not just what it is, but maybe how to apply it. Ask a question that came from your sermon that you didn't have the time to address. And then finally, like I said before, for family and friends of their church family, make your church shareable. Sharing content that's easy for them to just hit, share, send that DM. They're like, oh, that makes me think of this person. Oh, I'd love for them to hear this. I'd love for them to see this. Shares are low-hanging fruit for people to not just grow your church, but actually to give them something that they can give to other people in your church. Because that's often where people are communicating today. Now, I mentioned photos. Let this free you up a little bit, that next to last bullet point. Prioritize photos of your church in action over graphics. If you feel like, man, our church struggles to make good graphics, good. Just stop it. Like, stop making graphics. All the information that you want to put on an image, put it in your caption. Show a photo of people that are happy they're at the event, participating in the event last year. It doesn't have to be a photo of you preaching every time. Like, it could be other people. But show your church. Put your church is a body, right? It's a group of people, so continue to demonstrate who you are as a group of people. And like I said before, utilize your sermon. Okay, questions to ask. Yeah.
Something that I'm thinking of, I'm 52 years old, pastor 9 years, been a church planner overseas, did a lot of engagement stuff, but even with having some techie background, I mean, you're like still light years ahead because you live in this world. I mean, I know you meant direct message when you said DM, but I know there's
Yeah. Yeah.
you guys didn't know what a DM was. You had to think about it. You thought, did he just cuss? You
Uh,
know what I'm saying? So it's like, when I look at this, I think one of the problems that we often have, whether it's a missionary or a church planner
Yep.
or a pastor, is time management.
yeah.
So what I think when I look at this is, okay, I get the whole utilize your sermon, and I totally love that. But look, I feel like I need an action plan, like each week, set up your little camera that's over your computer and ask these 3 questions for each sermon that you have each week. Boom, post it, so I'm thinking, what is a concrete format I can use
Yep.
to remind myself of that each week? And I know I can YouTube how to do these things if I didn't know. I
Sure,
didn't know.
sure.
But you know what? I also realize I'm already an old fart at this point because, wow, like Facebook, and you're talking TikTok, I still can't quite wrap my arms around TikTok, except that they're trying to keep teachers from preventing students for showing fights in school.
Yeah.
Okay, that's TikTok for me, much less chat, whatever, all these, Snapchat, all of this. So frankly, that's beyond me
Yep.
right now, but I know I could probably sit down with you in 10 minutes. You can tell me, here's what it is, here's how you log into it, here's how you utilize that. Boom, because I'm not there on that.
So I guess let's not bury the lead then. The second to last slide in this presentation is schedule a strategy session with me. and let's sit down and let's talk about what a plan actually looks like for your church. The things that we think we know as a team, we never charge for. Where this business makes a living is for churches that say, hey, that sounds great and I see the need. I need help doing it. Can you help me do it? But, the free option for that is schedule a session, get this book that has a lot of these things. It's meant to just be a very practical book. And give it to one of your youth or college students. Call them an intern for a season and ask them to start doing it. And take on, let somebody that already has the things that feel like the highest threshold for you to cross over, that for them that's their everyday, and say, here, take some direction. I'll give you some content. Let's make a game plan. Now you're unleashing your church to do the work of ministry. It's like that's something that the Bible tells us to do or something. Social media for evangelism. We're going to have next slides on discipleship. These questions we could run by. And just think, like, do we ask questions like this when we're thinking what to post for our church? How often are you articulating the gospel on social media? How does this post look or sound to a non-Christian? That's an important one. Who is the hero of this post? Jesus or your church? The pastor or your ministry? Does someone need to know prior knowledge about faith, about your church, or something else to really even be able to understand this post? What information might be helpful for someone to feel comfortable attending your church? Don't know why I have 2 question marks there, but we'll just say it's important. And then because you're already answering these questions when you preach, you can bring them out in your social media. What idols, questions, or doubts about God and the gospel are common in your community? And those are the kind of things I'd prioritize when you're looking for a sermon clip or something like that. We can do the same thing for discipleship. And surprise, surprise, the gospel's for both. And so how often are you articulating the gospel on social media? It's important. Same thing about idols, questions, and doubts. Does your church have a discipleship pathway? Like your post can help nurture people in that pathway of what their next step is and how they're growing in their faith. How can your posts help your people grow a love for Scripture? So they're getting it during the week. Of course you want them to be in the Word for themselves. How can your social media ministry actually be a catalyst for that? And then, if it being shareable, is it easily shareable in topic and tone? On bullet 3, does your church have a discipleship pathway? Like this is the question I ask whenever it comes to like how you share events on your social media channel. Because discipleship evangelism, obviously that's the ministry of the church, but also you want people to come to the men's night. Like you want people to join your daycare ministry or to go to Mother's Day Out or something like that. You got to promote stuff too. But answer the why when you do. Not just come to this, but why does it matter? What is it that people are getting out of it? Because just in the same way that you mentioned, we've got a limited amount of time. Man, as a church planner trying to connect with young families on the North Shore, their entire lives sound scheduled. And if it's not a sport, it's a birthday. And it's not. And now that school's back into it, like when do you actually connect with them? And so think through those things as we can consider about social. Let's talk. All right, again, even weirder when he's not moving. Email, SMS, and follow-up. SMS meaning text messages. And so really, stats show email is still the most efficient and for your money, best bang for your money to connect and communicate with your church. And so if you're thinking, I don't know how to do social, I don't know how to make my website better, you know how to send an email. We've had enough time. We've learned that. And you can be yourself sharing with your people through email. At the same time, email versus text messages, email open rate, meaning like how often somebody opens an email when they get an email, 21%. Okay, text message open rate, 98%. Until you spam them with a lot of text messages. And then they just don't want to go to your church anymore because you never stop nagging them with like, oh, I see they read it all the time. I'm just going to keep sending them. Come to church on Sunday. Come to church on Sunday. But still, that's a helpful tool. If your church is not using text messaging, there's a lot of services out there. Our software also offers text messaging. Harmless, not shameless plug for that. I can talk with you more about that at the booth at any point during the conference. But email, text messages, they're great for reminders and also great for automation. If you signed up for our free website giveaway, and there's an iPad on at our booth where you can fill in your information and sign up for that, you should get a text message thanking you for signing up. And that's something that's automated. If I wanted to, I could drop a voicemail on your phone thanking you for signing up or thanking you for attending church for the first time. You can do any number of things that when we get to social media ads here in a minute, I'll also talk about how we can use some automated things with also social media ads to actually help start conversations with people. Not so everything's just automatic and it's AI and it's all just digital, but no, actually just things that help you speak to people in real life and make that easier to do so. Actually, let's do it now. Man, actually, I think I like it better that they're not moving because it's mysterious. Social media ads. Ads, whether it's for churches or for businesses, ads mean eyeballs, right? It's putting, and it's something objective because you're paying for it. You get a report on the number of impressions you have, how many people see your ad, what they're doing with your ad. Now, with ads, though, the goal of ads, if you've ever run an ad for your church, and maybe as soon as I say ads or I say marketing, like you get a little squeamish about that. And I think that that's fair. We're not here to market the church. We're here to be the hands and feet of Jesus and to bring the gospel to a lost and dying world. And we want to use every tool at our disposal to do that. So ads for the church, it's not meant to grow your church. It's meant to connect you with new people. And those might sound like the same thing, but they're not. One might lead to the other, but the goal is just creating meaningful connections and opportunities for you to minister to new people. Because the goal is to connect with new people, you shouldn't run an ad for your church if you haven't figured out what that connection point looks like. If you ever thought like, hey, it's Easter, let's run an ad. And so you spend money on an ad on Facebook and Instagram, and it seems like people see it, but then you have no idea whether it did anything or accomplished anything. You didn't ask them to do anything. You didn't collect any information. And at the end of Easter, you spent $500 on Facebook, and you really don't know why. You know, in business world, they talk about this as like a funnel, right? And so if at the bottom of a funnel for a business is them gaining a new customer, right? You know, the bottom of a funnel for a church, you have a new disciple or a new church member. And then the funnel continues on as you see them sanctified and growing in their walk with the Lord, right? Ads is just like pouring water on the top of the funnel. But if there's no funnel, the water just does nothing. It just makes a mess and it goes everywhere. And so social media ads, Google ads, all these things are helpful amplifiers if you already have a strategy for how you want to connect with people and where you're sending them and how you're starting conversations with them. Now, that's something we also help churches through and talk through, but really the ads conversation, don't spend your money on social media ads just because you want to get new attenders to your church, unless you know what you're going to do with them whenever they respond, whenever they see the ad. What is the invite? What's the ask? We do, I say big days versus non-big days is meant to be what's there. Most churches, if they're going to run a social media ad, they'll run for Easter, Christmas, right? So does the church down the block from you. And so does the church three more blocks down the block from you from there. And so that means when you do an ad through Meta, which is the brand that owns Facebook and Instagram and increasing parts of the world, they will charge you more per click because there's more competition, more people running ads for the same goals and the same kind of content to the same type of audience. Now you want to connect with people, not just on Easter, not just on Christmas, throughout the year. And so really what we try to do, we do Easter campaigns for churches, we do Christmas campaigns for churches, our church anniversaries, homecomings, but really I try to prioritize the non-big day. You know, and there's pseudo non-big days, like back to school, right? People are getting into a rhythm after summer vacation, and so this is a time where you're getting a lot of new guests at your church anyway, or people move during the summer and now are looking for a new church home. And so the three kind of ads that we often run are Plan a Visit ads, Coffee with a Pastor, and Can We Pray for You? I want to take those in reverse order. Can We Pray for You is about as advanced as it sounds. There's no goal to get people to come to your church. Actually, I think this works best if people have seen the church. And it's simply saying, we don't want anything else from you. Like, if you fill out this form, the pastors at our church want to commit to pray for you. And then you surprise them by not reaching out to them with anything else, other than to say, hey, my name is Rob, and I prayed for you this week. And just let the Lord do with that what he does. Now, the other two, Coffee with a Pastor. I ran this for our church plant. There was nothing to plan a visit to. And so I have a video of me that's just, hey, my name's Rob, and we're starting a new church that's coming to Mandeville. And I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee or tea, the coffee shop that's down the street here. Using the software that we have as a company, the link sent them to a calendar where they could pick a date and time that's just linked to my calendar that had my availability on it. And then that just drops a meeting in my calendar where I can I know that I'm going to meet this person at this coffee shop at this time, and I'm going to buy them a cup of coffee. So it's a $5. It's not $5 coffee anymore. It's a $10 trip to get coffee for two people if you don't tip. And and I had meetings with people. I had one guy, so we started doing these, and then our baby girl came a week early. And so a few of these I had to postpone or cancel. One guy who's now getting involved with their church plant and was excited. Our baby girl came. I texted him, hey, we're going to have to reschedule this. Him and his wife dropped off a care package for us, even though they'd never met us, at our house, just with goods and everything, diapers and stuff for the baby. And that was just a connecting point before we ever had a chance to meet them. Plan a visit ads. Maybe you've seen these. There's a lot of digital companies that are helping and offering to do these kind of ads. There is a case study for First Baptist Church Covington. That's our sending church, so we've been able to do a lot of work with them. And you can read that at some point. But the plan a visit ads are essentially inviting people to church. And I find, and maybe this is humbling for us as pastors, that the collage of various photos of the life of the church has consistently performed better than the video of a pastor saying, hey, my name is so-and-so at such and such church. Come to our church. It's exciting. We have a great kids ministry, and we meet at this time. We want to do the video as well, too. We want to give you your FaceTime, but, man, pictures of your other people, that's not you. We found that every single time we run these for churches, that performs better. In the first 3 months, First Baptist Covington had 400 people plan a visit to their church. And of course, all of that's in scale, and they're a large church. But the first week that they ran plan a visit ads, I got to see this. Somebody planned a visit to the church. They've got this follow-up. They got a text message that's saying, hey, before you come, let us know if you have any questions. We sent a couple of text messages. They're automated, but they all ask questions, trying to have some kind of conversation. Hey, do you have anybody coming with you this Sunday? If somebody responds, that goes to a volunteer at the church who now can make a connection. And so this person plans a visit. First week that First Covington runs these ads. And Sunday comes and goes. They don't visit. On Monday morning, they text that phone number. Hey, sorry, I didn't make it to church this weekend. My husband ended up in the hospital. The volunteer at the church gets this text message, gives it to one of the pastors at First Covington, who proceeds to go to St. Tammany and do a hospital visit, be able to connect with and pray with this family before they ever step foot through the doors of the church. Like, these are opportunities just waiting in front of you of people that are looking right where they're at already on social media. All right, speed up a little bit. Google for Nonprofits Grant. Has anybody heard of this before? Some of you, maybe you've heard of it, and it's like, I signed up for it, but now I don't know what to do with it. So it does a few things for you. Your email. So Rob at restorationmandeville.com, Rob at graceled.org, those branded emails. So it's not just restorationcommunitychurch@gmail.com, you know, like your branded email. Those are free through this grant that's available to your church. 100 terabytes of storage with Google Drive. If you don't know what a terabyte is, it's a lot. You will not hit the cap on that much storage on Google Drive that you don't have to pay for a month. And then there is a zero missing. So it really is that big. $10,000 a month available for free in credits for Google Ads. And as of this year, 2025, that includes the biggest ad package that Google offers called Performance Max Ads, meaning one ad can display in your sponsored listings, you know, like you see a sponsored post at the top whenever you search for something in Google. It can show up as a sponsored post in the map that you see in the Google listing. It can show up on YouTube. It can show up anywhere where Google offers services. Your ad can display through Performance Max Ads that are now available for this grant. Registering for the grant is pretty basic, and really you do not even need, we can hit the next slide. You do not even, but wait, there's more. You do not even need a 501c3 number or registration officially. All you need if you are a church is your EIN. And you upload it as a PDF, like your documentation with the Secretary of State, through google.com/nonprofits, give your church's physical address and somebody's point of contact. And that gets you access to all of those tools, free for your church. So we can help you. It's so easy that we're not going to charge anything to help you do that and apply for it, because it really takes 5 minutes. What we do is handling that $10,000 of Google Ads every month. I'll tell you right now, no matter how much work we do for you, we can't spend $10,000 of ads for your local surrounding community every single month. But over the last month, our small little church plant has had over 50 clicks and visits to our website through these ads. And I just set up the ad one time and then just left it because, I've got 1,000 other things to do. And so what we do, whether it's Church Near Me, which is like 1.5 million visits a month, Google searches for Church Near Me, the most searched term for churches. Church insert your city or your denomination name, those kind of things. We can do ads that run to those that point to your website. Of course, if they land on your website, what are they going to do when they get there? We discourage people from running and paying for a Google ad service if it's just going to bring people to a broken website that they can't do anything with. We want to have that funnel in place, and that's something that we help churches do. If you have care ministries like Celebrate Recovery, you don't even have to use church-based keywords. A keyword could be Alcoholics Anonymous that points to your CR page on your website. Or, grief counseling, and it points to like your pastoral counseling page on your website. So the opportunities are endless, and that's one of the monthly services that we provide to churches. All right, we are almost ready for questions. All right, that little QR code should bring you, it's bigger on the screen, so it should be able to bring you to a form where you can put information about your church in and get a free digital report on how your church is doing through a variety of things, how it's ranking in certain things, speed. It's going to measure particularly your Google business profile, which is not in here, but it's actually the easiest, freest way to show up higher in Google. When we say search engine optimization, that means, I really should have spell checked this before I did it. When we say search engine optimization, what we're talking about is when somebody searches church in Mandeville, you don't want to be listing number 50 in church in Mandeville if your church is in Mandeville, right? And Google has no bias, and so the Jehovah's Witness might be showing up in front of you. All of the Catholic churches, if you're in a Catholic dense area, might be showing up in front of you. And so it's not a matter of, I want people to come to our church and not another church. Actually, Google's sending them without discrimination to any number of places. And so how do we see your church actually, you don't want the moniker as a new church. We're a great church if you can find us. And you don't want that moniker digitally either. And so some of the things that we do with SEO, and this is probably the headiest of all these things, and so I've tried to just use 2 words for each one of them. There's the technical side of SEO, how your website's built, that it's built and it hits all the check marks, so Google's bots crawl it and say, hey, this is a good website, it can be trusted, it's built well. How people interact with it. If your website loads slowly, and your homepage, that first section people see, takes 5 seconds for it to load, even because you have this awesome video and everything else, but it's slow, Google's going to knock you for that in your rankings as well. Content. If you want to rank for church in Mandeville in Google, and you don't say the word Mandeville a single time anywhere in your website, you will not rank for a church in Mandeville. But not just that, growing content. Google wants to see that you're an authority in that particular topic and for that keyword. So whenever you post your sermons every week, if you included a little bit of an overview about your sermon with like some written content, even if it's just your manuscript, all kinds of keywords in there, Google is seeing your website grow with relevant content that shows you as more of an authority in your industry. And that's the website authority piece. Your Google business profile, what's called backlinks. So anybody remember Bing? Or maybe you still use Bing. Bing is actually still around. Or Yellow Pages is digital now. Your church might be on Yelp. You might not ever look for a church on Yelp. But you know who does look for your church on Yelp? Google's bots. And if your address for your church is 1520 Highway 21, and on your Google business profile, it's 1520 HWY 21. And then on Yelp, it's 1520 LA-21. And then on Facebook, your address is 1520, the word spelled out, Highway 21. Google knocks that as not being consistent. If your hours that you're open is different on your Google business profile from your Facebook, from who knows how someone created your Bing profile, but it's there and the address is wrong or the hours are wrong. All those things actually hurt you on Google. So that's something we do with our SEO service for churches. We make sure that all this stuff is cleaned up, and then the more websites that point back to your website, the more Google thinks, hey, this is a place we can trust and send more people to. And so that's kind of the sense of that. All right, I mentioned this before. That's the last of the content slides. If you go to our website, nope. Yes, thanks, man. If you go to our website, graceled.org/schedule, that will show you my calendar where you can book a strategy session with me. I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. There's no availability today or tomorrow. I'm here. Come talk to me at the booth. But we're going to run through all these different things, give you a heat map to see how you're ranking and do it. Like, all that stuff is free. We want to give you resources. But if you want to talk about a specific one of these things, anything like that, we'd love to help you with that.